And welcome to another episode of Upon Further Review. I'm Josh Aubrey. Have a busy week ahead. We're going to begin with some reviews from this past week. We'll be joined by Frank Sulkowski in just a moment to kind of go over some of the area high school football and the Georgia Southern Eagles season opener at Auburn. Of course, you had Statesboro High and Southeast Bulloch, both in Hinesville. Statesboro High at Liberty County, where their game went back and forth throughout after spotting Liberty County to a 16-0 lead. Statesboro ends up losing in the final minutes of that game. Southeast Bulloch, meanwhile, against Bradwell, that game going back and forth throughout before the Southeast Bulloch Yellow Jackets ended up losing by 3. Meanwhile, the Bulloch Academy Gators go on the road to Macon and lose to Westfield in a close game. And the only game at home was the only blowout, and that was the Portal Panthers falling to ECI. Unfortunately, speaking of blowouts, the Georgia Southern Eagles go on the road to number 12 ranked Auburn, and any chances of a upset were dashed pretty quickly. The offense unable to move the ball. They did score one touchdown, that being on the defensive side of the ball, but the offense 3 and out throughout the first half and never really moved the ball, never really posed much of a threat. So the Georgia Southern Eagles start the season at 0-1, and then I mentioned just in a moment, we'll have Frank Sulkowski on to join us and talk a little bit more about Auburn and Georgia Southern, as well as our area high school games. But before we do that, we'd like to remind you, for any legal advice that you may have in the Statesboro Bulloch County area, don't forget to talk to our friend Lovett Bennett Jr., attorney at law PC, Lovett's office located in downtown Statesboro. And join me now, the big guy from WJCL TV 22 ABC in Savannah, Frank Sulkowski. And Frank, we saw the tough loss this past week at number 12 ranked Auburn. Georgia Southern goes up there, their offense unable to get on track, defense held out as long as they can, but 3 and out. You're going to be on the field a lot, and it showed. They end up losing that one 41-7. This week, a familiar foe from back in the FCS days from the playoffs. You got New Hampshire coming down. Now, New Hampshire's coming off a 1-point victory against Maine. Maine misses an extra point, or that game goes to overtime, and who knows what happens. But they seem to be a team that runs the ball. Their quarterback led their team in rushing, and then they had another running back that ran for 79 yards. So this could be a game that's taken part more on the ground. Georgia Southern has some history with New Hampshire. They've played a lot of those teams from up there in that Colonial Conference before. Your thoughts on Georgia Southern coming back home and taking on New Hampshire?
Well, I'll tell you what, I feel very confident in Georgia Southern for the biggest reason. New Hampshire, they ain't Auburn. Let's be honest. You're going to see night and day with the level of talent you're facing. I think this is a very good matchup for Georgia Southern to get that bad taste out of their mouths from last week's loss at Auburn. I think the offense is going to find a little bit easier way to get the ball moving, and that's what they need. I think that's the biggest thing that the offense never got against Auburn, and that was into a rhythm, so they never got the confidence. I mean, when you're going 3 and out, you never get confidence to make that big play. I mean, I think Georgia Southern's first down came via a face mask penalty. So again, it's hard to get into a rhythm. It's hard for your offense to get going when you're not getting those first downs. I think we will see that. I also do think that we'll see some of the big plays out of the offense that we've seen in years past. I think we have too much speed and too much talent in our backfield. Speed is really going to be the difference. That and the depth as well. Of course, we know FBS, you have more scholarships, you have more available bodies than you do at the FCS level, and I think that's going to play a big part as well, especially early in the season, and we should see a completely different team come Saturday against New Hampshire. Defensively, I think that bodes well if you're talking about a run team. I liked what I saw of the Georgia Southern defense back against Auburn. I think we were getting pressure on the quarterback when they throw. I think this is the perfect storm that that it's just what Georgia Southern needs to get back on track. And it's just a shame in a year like this where you have so much young talent, you couldn't play a New Hampshire the first game of the season to kind of get some of that positive vibe going with your young guys and start believing. But I think that's what will happen as they play Saturday at Paulson Stadium.
Georgia Southern, of course, not too far removed from their old FCS days. And I know when Georgia Southern got an opportunity to go up against an FBS team, it always kind of perked things up a bit, and they've played pretty well in the past against some of those FBS teams. My question to you is that the same question I asked Coach Summers at the press conference that we had on Monday, and that is, how much difference is there, do you think, between the top 10, 15 teams in FCS and maybe in the Sun Belt? Because in my opinion, I don't think there's a lot of difference, to be honest. Now, I think you keep going down the FCS ranks, there is a lot of difference. But I think some of the top programs, I think in FCS, top 10, 15, and you mentioned it this past week, you had Howard, winning. You had James Madison winning. A lot of these FCS better teams are giving these FBS teams trouble, and I don't know that I'm really sold that the Sun Belt is that much of a jump from some of the top teams in FCS.
Well, and now it's kind of the glove is on the other hand, the shoe's on the other foot. When Georgia Southern was an FCS member and they would play some of these big schools, a lot of people would consider that taking on a cupcake. And that's what I think some people are thinking about this weekend's game against New Hampshire, that Georgia Southern is bringing in a cupcake to Paulson Stadium. I don't think that's the case at all. And like you said, I do think the margin between the Sun Belt and say the top 15 in the FCS, it's pretty close. And you're not going to tell me that a team like North Dakota State or the James Madisons of the world, or even a New Hampshire, Maine, some of those type programs, they could immediately compete at a level in the Sun Belt Conference as well. So again, I'm not billing this thing as a cupcake, Georgia Southern's game against New Hampshire this weekend. I just think it's a little better matchup that Georgia Southern, this is a type team and a type game that they should win and should win comfortably. Now, when I say comfortably, I'm not saying Georgia Southern's going to walk, by 30, 40, 50 points. Let's be honest. There's so much parity in college football now that those top 15 teams in the FCS, they're getting 2-star guys, sometimes 3-star guys, like Georgia Southern used to do when they were in the FCS. You're getting guys who may just be an inch or two too short for the FBS programs. And so you're going to have quality athletes, and there's no doubt New Hampshire is going to be a quality team. But as Georgia Southern being an FBS member now with more scholarships to offer, they've had a couple good recruiting classes, should be able to flex your muscles a little bit against an opponent like New Hampshire. But with that said, I expect New Hampshire to do like Georgia Southern does. They're not coming down here to lose. And I hope no team goes into any game expecting to lose or wanting to lose. They're going to get a little bit of money for this trip to come down here, and they're going to come down here looking to spring the upset. Georgia Southern better come ready to play. They're going to get a battle, but I just think Georgia Southern, this is a chance for them to show that we have progressed. And yeah, we may not be where Auburn is, but we're very worthy of playing in the FBS and being considered one of the top teams in an FBS conference, which, us in the Sun Belt Conference.
All right, well, you've heard from me and Frank. Coming up next, we'll hear from head coach Tyson Summers and some of the players, and offensive coordinator Brian Cook as well.
Lee Hill and Johnston Insurers. We've been Statesboro's insurance people since 1963. That's a lot of memories. Recognized as one of the leading agencies in Georgia, Lee Hill and Johnston is independent and offers a complete line of personal and business insurance for auto, life, home, and health. We'll shop companies to find the lowest premiums and best coverage for you, your family, or your business. Lee Hill and Johnston Insurers, the insurance people since 1963.
All right, well, we got a little bit of the insight from Frank Sulkowski on what he expects and what we expect from New Hampshire. Now let's hear from head coach Tyson Summers and some of the players.
This really some of the stuff I already had seen during the game. Felt like I could have made some better reads early. to give us a chance to get some bigger plays. But it's behind us now. It's time to move on to this week. We still got a lot of energy. You know what I'm saying? We can't let this one game define our season. You know what I'm saying? True enough, it hurts to lose, but it won't define our season. We're gonna come out here this week in Paulson and we're gonna play.
We're ready to work. I mean, I know these guys have a bad taste in their mouths from the last game, and we just want to go out here and we want to make Eagle Nation proud, and we want to go out here with a win. Hungry. That's the mood of the team. We got a bad taste in our mouth right now, and we want to go out there and fix that out there on Saturday.
Sean McDonald, guys won 2 Eddie Robinson Awards of National Head Coach of the Year, won the AFCA National Head Coach of the Year. I think he's been there 26 total seasons and 19 straight as a head coach, and I mean, that's what we all hope to be able to be to accomplish what he's been able to do. They've been in the FCS playoffs 13 straight seasons, which is an outstanding number. I read a statistic last week, where I think it was 11 straight years they were in the top 25, in the AP top 25, which is an outstanding number. Obviously, they won a big rivalry game with Maine last Thursday, and they've got a good football team. Offensively, I think that they're bringing 5 to 6 starters back. A quarterback that's played a bunch of ball for them, a really good slot receiver, very multiple in what they do, very problematic in the things that they create on offense because of their ability, really the quarterback's ability to both run and throw and have some talented receivers. Very tough up front with their offensive line and very fundamental in everything they do from a defensive standpoint. I think, I think they've got 7 or 8 of their returning starters. I know, and they base out of a 4-2-5 defense, and I think 5 of their 6 D linemen and linebackers are all returning, and they've got 2 preseason all-conference guys in the secondary. So they're going to be a good football team. I think they're ranked 12th in the country right now, and they played last Thursday, so they'll have a couple extra days of preparation. It's an important week for us to prepare, not only for New Hampshire, but an important week for us to continue to get better and focus on us as well.
Coach, how much of a difference do you think there is in the top 10 or 12, 15 FCS teams and, say, the Sun Belt Conference?
Yeah, I don't know. I think obviously if you look at what history tells you and a really good Georgia Southern program, obviously being able to come up, and we come up and go right in, have an opportunity to win the Sun Belt. I think you see the immediate success of the team in the mountains up in North Carolina and their success that they've been able to have in their transition from FCS. I think that you see a lot of those teams that can. I know from a recruiting standpoint, there's very little difference between a guy that's one of the top tier guys at an FCS program and somebody that we're recruiting. I mean, ultimately we wind up really kind of recruiting all of the best players. There may be the difference in an inch or 2 here, or 15 or 20 pounds, or does he run a 4.72 instead of a 4.61? All things that us coaches, somehow miss the point on sometimes. And so I think that there's a lot of comparisons there. I really do. And obviously, this head coach is a guy that's been here before and has been to Paulson Stadium, and certainly he's a guy that is chosen to be there for a long time and has had a lot of success through his career. So I think when you start talking about really good FCS programs like the one that New Hampshire has and continues to have, and the sustainability that they've had is really hard to do anywhere. And obviously having the same head coach there for a long time gives them that ability. But they are a very impressive football team, and we're going to have to become ready to play.
No credit refused isn't just an offer, it's a way of business and has been for over 100 years. No banks, no ridiculous credit requirements, just local Badcock store owners who treat you right and give you credit when others won't. It's never been easier to express your style and love your home.
And Frank Sulkowski joining us once again from WJCL TV in Savannah. Frank, and you're going to be back on the Frenzy here Friday night. We know you were off this past week because you had the Auburn game. But among those games, a couple here in Bulloch County, you've got Statesboro High playing host to Screven County, undefeated on the season, ranked among the top teams in the state. And Benedictine Cadets, coming off their state championship, don't look like they've slowed up too much, even with a couple of guys playing for the Georgia Southern Eagles now. They are coming to Fred Shaver Field to take on Southeast Bulloch. We also have the Portal Panthers going to Jenkins County. You also have Bulloch Academy at Thomas Jefferson. But let's talk a little bit about the two bigger games here in town with two premier teams coming to Bulloch County.
Yeah, I tell you what, we talked about, the improvements that we've seen out of Southeast Bulloch and Statesboro High School between games 1 and 2. Now the bad part is in games 3 for both squads, they take on powerful teams. In Benedictine and Screven County, you're getting two teams that are in the top 4 in the state in the Class AA rankings. Southeast Bulloch is getting a Benedictine squad that is opened with a big win over Glen Academy. They've also knocked off St. Pius out of Atlanta. Benedictine's the defending state champs. They do have several pieces of that squad still playing this year, including their quarterback, Nick Iannone. Of course, Benedictine led by a former Georgia Southern Eagle and Danny Britt, who is a defensive guru. So I can tell you what, one thing's for sure, when Benedictine comes to Brooklyn on Friday night, they're going to have a defense that will be equivalent, if not better, than any high school defense that's ever rolled into Bulloch County. And then you look at Screven County, had a chance to cover them at the Irk Russell Classic early in the season. They've got weapons as well, and they're another team in AA who advanced pretty far last year, and a team that is eyeing another deep postseason run. And you got guys including, Big CJ Wright, who is a Georgia Southern verbal commitment as well, plays defensive line, also plays running back, and he's a heaping helping of man who will like to hit and like to run the ball as well. Their wide receiver there at Screven County is already verbally committed to South Carolina. Their quarterback is a very quality, good guy as well, who will also be playing college football. Screven County is definitely going to be a tall task. So Statesboro better be ready defensively. That thing could turn into a shootout because Screven County doesn't have as much depth defensively, but that offense is one of the better offenses that I've seen so far this season. So definitely tough situations for Statesboro and Southeast Bulloch this week, as you have two top-tier programs in AA and two teams that are already in the conversation to make deep runs and possible state championship contenders here this year. Bulloch Academy, I look for the Gators to bounce back against a squad that's just going to be completely outmatched against the Gators, and I think this is a good chance for BA to get back to the winning that we saw early in the year. Portal, it's one of those things with Jenkins County. The verdict's still out on Jenkins County. They're 1-1. One of their losses was a 1-point loss here in Savannah to Windsor Forest, who, of course, is a little bit higher in classification, and a Windsor Forest team that's now 2-0 on the season after a big win over Bryan County back on Friday night. So Portal definitely has a tough matchup, but not nearly as tough as what's facing Southeast Bulloch and Statesboro High. And I think Bulloch Academy with the easiest night on deck or on tap here out of the 4 Bulloch County schools.
All right, Frank, I know a lot of our people from around here in Bulloch County love to tune in and see the frenzy and get a chance to see some of the highlights, not only from our Bulloch County teams, but what's going on there in Savannah. Once again, Frank Sulkowski joining us. Stay with us in just a moment. You've heard from us. We'll hear from the area coaches.
To stay ahead, a parent has to really be on the go and stop for school, stop for sports, stop for an intervention. But you don't have to stop for banking. To stay ahead with mobile online banking, bank ahead with Queensboro National Bank and Trust.
See Jeremy Reagan and the staff at Queensboro National Bank and Trust, South Main Street in Statesboro.
Well, you heard from me and Frank. Now it's time to get out and hear from some of our coaches. We have Terrence Hennessy from Bulloch Academy. We also have Jeff Kaiser from Statesboro High and Steve Pennington from Southeast Bulloch previewing their upcoming matchups.
We spotted them 16 points. Just made some bonehead decisions, and but we regrouped in the first half and we're leading at the halftime. So it was a lot of good things. Kids played hard. Effort's never been or has not been an issue the first 2 games. We just got to be a little smarter. Playing hard, now we got to play hard as well, play a little smarter.
How's the morale after a loss like that? How do you keep them from going, here we go again?
It's human nature to get discouraged, human nature to, look for answers. So we just got to put our nose to the grindstone and continue to work. Hopefully the kids will keep grinding and fighting. If they fall by the wayside, next man up, we move on.
Well, things definitely don't get any easier this Friday night. You've got Screven County. They're averaging over 40 points a game. You know the kind of weapons they've got over there. Your thoughts on this game coming up here Friday?
Very good team. I know defensively they've got 10 starters that are seniors on defense. So we got to get off the field on defense. We got to, if we get opportunities to get off the field and get our offense on the field, we got to take advantage of that. Obviously they've got weapons all over the place. And quarterback, in my opinion, is their best football player. And they go as he goes. Containing him is one thing, but like I said, they've got weapons everywhere. Good backs, good offensive line, good receivers, they throw and catch, run the option. Everything they do, you got to be disciplined defensively to defend. We just got to take care of us and tackle well and play disciplined defense, and hopefully we can continue to improve offensively when we get the chance.
There's no doubt in my mind that we are going to take momentum even in defeat from this game. We gave ourselves a chance. It was a very, very physical ball game. They were very big up front on both sides, and we held our own. But really what I really take away from this game is the way we came back in the second half, and we made some adjustments. Our players picked up the pace, paid attention to the coaches at halftime, and really battled to the end and gave ourselves a chance.
Well, you're going to need all the momentum and everything you can muster, as you've got Benedictine, the defending state champs, coming in to call on Friday. You're going to have your hands full. Your thoughts on this game Friday?
No doubt about it. I mean, this is the third game in a series. The only difference in this is it's just not a 6A school. But it is a different challenge in regards to the size of school, because Benedictine has really progressed or enjoyed success for the last 5, 6, 7 years, and they are a magnet for good athletes down in the Savannah area. I have to say Coach Brett and his staff do a wonderful job with their players. I think the discipline that they display in the way they play, it helps them in their execution, and I do not see one iota of a weakness nowhere on their football team. And so with that regard, we're faced with another, maybe the most monumental task of the 3 games that we've played thus far. And so we have to take that in stride, where we measure up to the challenge. Number 2, we're still learning how to compete. Number 3, we're looking for continued improvement. And number 4, going into a game of this, we're practicing to win the football game. But at the same time, we have to look in the sense that where we know their capability, and we have to find those silver linings that can occur during the course of the game that we can build on as we prepare for our region schedule.
Last week was definitely disappointing. We felt like we had a great opportunity to get our first win against Westfield, and we just didn't get it done, and that's completely on me and the coaching staff. We didn't have the team ready to play. 5 turnovers means we didn't stress it enough to the team, and we just got to bounce back and beat a TJ team who's really hungry.
It's another team that hadn't won a game this year, but I guess all you got to do is look back 1 week to know not to overlook them.
Yeah, I'm not worried about them and their record. I'm worried about us right now. Even though we had probably our best offensive game and one of our best defensive games, we can't have mental errors like we had, the 5 turnovers, the 110 yards in penalties. If that happens, a lot of teams are going to beat us this year.
What are you looking for the significant step forward this week?
I'm looking for us to play 48 minutes. We have not played a complete game yet on both sides of the ball, and I'd like to see us execute a lot better, where we don't miss blocks, we don't turn the ball over, and we don't miss easy tackles.
And of course, also the Portal Panthers hitting the road for Jenkins County. Well, stay with us. Coming up next, it's the most anticipated part of the Upon Further Review shows. Jen Hirsch back coming up next to give us her Pick 6 of the week.
The Medical Center Pharmacy on Grenade Street is proud to be your Health Mart pharmacy in Statesboro. The Medical Center Pharmacy, locally owned and serving this community for 50 years, is open 364 days a year. The pharmacists at Medical Center know there's nothing more important than your family's well-being. That's why they take the time to know their customers, explain their medications, and answer any questions. The Medical Center Pharmacy, your Health Mart pharmacy. Health Mart, caring for you and about you.
All right, it's time for that eagerly anticipated segment, Jen's Picks. Jen's Pick 6 is what we decided to call it this year, and what do you know? She picks 6 right in the first week. 6-0. Josh, 4-2. Distant second place. Jennifer, lead us off. I know you have something you wanted to mention first.
Yeah, for my fans, talking about my daddy for a second. I had a dream this upcoming week, Monday, and I had a dream, and I prayed really hard that my daddy would come in my dream. He came, he saw me, he told me to grab his hand, I grabbed his hand, he talked to me for a little bit, and he said, I have a good feeling about this. He said, even though you have my cohort, and you still are doing good, so you have to lead in front of my cohort.
And you did.
So I
6-0.
did. I didn't know how I was going to do then, but now I'm doing great. And so my daddy is up there resting and watching all over us. It was a hard situation. And 5 years ago, I look back and I think, wow, 1 year ago is 1 year anniversary. So, Josh, we are doing the best we can, and a lot of people keep asking me that, so I keep saying, oh, well, we're doing the best we can. So this show, we're about to roll.
All right. Prayers are with you and your family, as always. Let's get into it. Georgia Southern coming off a tough loss. They have New Hampshire from FCS. They're a 10-point favorite on this sheet. Who you got?
Okay, I watched Georgia Southern.
Yeah, didn't go well.
I was not anticipating Georgia Southern to get beat. Let me just say that clear.
Yeah.
Tyson Summers, I tell you what, you're doing a great job on coaching-wise and doing all that for your boys. I prefer you to put in more people than ever.
All right.
I'm just trying to tell you what to do. You know what to do.
Who you got?
I picked Georgia Southern this week.
All right. I'm going to stick with 10 points is a lot. I think it's going to be a close game. But I'll take the Eagles to cover. All right, we got Navy and Tulane. Navy's given 14 to Tulane. Old Willie Fritz from Tulane. What do you think? Who you got?
Well, I studied really hard.
Yeah?
Okay.
You like Navy? You like Tulane?
I love Navy.
All right.
14 points.
Navy?
14 points. I'm all about the points, as Nate used to say. Points of spread.
I'm going to say Willie Fritz finds a way to keep it close. Navy might win. Clemson and Auburn. The team that we played last week, they're getting 5 points against Clemson.
Okay, I'm going for Clemson.
All right, I'm going to go with you, Clemson. Notre Dame giving your Georgia Bulldogs 5 points. Who you like?
I watched Georgia Bulldogs, by the way.
Quarterback got hurt.
I know. It's a shame on that. But wish him a lot of luck. And I'm going for the Bulldogs, Georgia Bulldogs.
All the way. I'm taking Notre Dame in this one, Jen. Ohio State, Oklahoma. Ohio State's given 7 to Oklahoma. Ohio State won big time last week. Who you like?
Ohio State.
All right, I'm going with you in that one as well. And then finally, rounding things off, we got Appalachian State. We never want them to win. They're playing Savannah State. They're probably going to win. They're giving 42 points. Who you like?
That's a lot of points.
That's a lot of points.
Total lot of points, guys.
Yeah.
And so I used to tell my dad a lot of times, well, when Appalachian was in Statesboro, what should I do? And Dad's like, pick, Georgia Southern, of course. But I'm picking Appalachian State.
I'm going to say Savannah State covers the spread, but still gets killed. All right, that'll wrap it up for this week. We'd like to thank Frank Sulkowski. I'd like to thank Jen Hirsch for her picks. Thank you for joining us. Hope to see you again next week.